I am pleased to introduce a longtime CUFI friend and staunch defender of Israel, Vice President Michael R. Pence. Mr. Pence served as the 48th Vice President of the United States. He previously served as the Governor of Indiana, and to becoming Governor, Mr. Pence served for over a decade in the U.S. House of Representatives. Throughout his career in public service, Vice President Pence has been a stalwart defender of Israel and a true friend of Christians United for Israel. As a congressman, he was a leading defender of the Jewish state and spoke at one of the first CUFI Washington summits. As governor, he enhanced Indiana's relations with Israel and traveled to the Holy Land on a CUFI-sponsored trip. We sent him to Israel for the first time. While in office as vice president, he was a leading voice in the White House in support of Israel, and we were, as we are this evening, honored to hear from the Vice President during our annual visit to Washington. It is now my distinct honor to present to Vice President Pence the Defender of Israel Award, given in recognition of his faithful and enduring service to Israel and the Jewish people. Will you please make welcome the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence.
Well, thank you all for that warm welcome, and hello, and welcome to Washington, D.C., to Christians United for Israel. I want to thank Pastor Hagee for 2 introductions. More than that. Pastor Hagee, I know I speak for everyone in this room when I thank you for all you've done, your ministry for Jesus Christ, but as we gather here today, would you all just join me in thanking Pastor Hagee for all he has done to strengthen America's relationship with Israel? I'm deeply humbled to receive the Defender of Israel Award. And I promise you, as Karen and I begin on a new chapter in our lives, wherever the Lord leads my family in the months and years ahead, I will always be a defender of our most cherished ally. And if I have anything to say about it, if the world knows nothing else, the world will know this: America stands with Israel. To the board members of CUFI, to everyone that's gathered here today, thank you for your generosity to this effort, this ministry. Thank you for your invitation and for your leadership and all that you've done to build a brighter future for the United States and our most cherished ally. And I want to congratulate all of you. CUFI is an extraordinary organization. Last time I spoke here in 2019, you had just 6 million members around the country. Today, 10 million members of Christians United for Israel. You know, that can only be explained in one biblical way. The Bible tells us every good tree bears good fruit. And I truly do believe that the hand of providence is on the side of this extraordinary ministry. So give yourselves a round of applause for all you've done. Here at CUFI, we're standing up in defense of Israel. and the Jewish people. I'm grateful for this recognition, but some of you that know me well know that I'm hardly new to this cause. When I was first elected to Congress more than 20 years ago, every time I heard the issue of Israel come to the floor of the Congress, I would hurry to the floor and offer a speech. In fact, some of the older members of Congress, including some Democrat members of the Jewish community, would sometimes come up to me and be curious about it. They'd say, "That's quite a speech on Israel." I'd say, "Well, thank you." They'd say, "Big Jewish community out there in rural Indiana?" I'd say, "Well, I've got Jewish constituents, but not a large community." And then they'd always say to me, "What's your mother's maiden name?" And I would always tell them, "Look, my love for Israel springs from the heart of a heartland boy who can tell you firsthand what all of you in CUFI already know, is that love for Israel echoes from every little buckboard church beside every cornfield all across America." Like all of you, I'm one of the millions of Americans who has grown in my faith to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I stand for Israel not just because she's the strongest democracy in the wider Middle East, not just because she's our most important ally, but I stand with Israel and always will, because I believe with all my heart that he will bless those who bless her. You know, last year I had the honor of visiting Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria. Karen and I actually traveled to Hebron, the oldest Jewish community in the world, where Abraham and Jacob made their home some 4,000 years ago. It's amazing to know that the Jewish people are once again living and working and worshiping on the same land that their ancestors owned thousands of years ago, and that's why I'm so proud that the Trump-Pence administration declared that the communities of Judea and Samaria are not inconsistent with international law. And I want to thank each one of you. I want to thank you for the privilege of serving as your vice president. It was the greatest honor of my life. And it was a special honor to be a part of the most pro-Israel administration in American history. You know, our administration took steps that truly were historic. We ensured that Israel would always have the resources and the strength to defend herself by herself. From our first day in office, we worked to strengthen the ties that bind the people of our nations together. Under the Trump-Pence administration, we made history. As members of CUFI, I know better than most. We passed the Taylor-Force Act that shut down funding for the Palestinian Authority until they stopped paying stipends to the families of terrorists. And CUFI made that possible. We acknowledged Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. We removed the United States from the UN Human Rights Council for its blatant anti-Israel bias. And we shut down the PLO office here in Washington, D.C. and established a Center for Counterterrorism in the Middle East. We issued the strongest executive order ever to fight anti-Semitism, and we banned taxpayer dollars from any institution of higher education that trafficked in anti-Semitic hate. And we withdrew from the disastrous Iranian nuclear deal and made it clear to the world that America will never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. And of course, after years of broken promises, stretching across 4 previous administrations, I couldn't have been more proud to stand beside the President of the United States in the diplomatic room just before Christmas when he signed our decision to move the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. You know, today I know we're all thinking of a great friend of America, a great friend of the American people, and a champion of freedom. And our hearts are going out today, as well as our prayers, to the longest-serving prime minister in the history of Israel. Join me in thanking and praying for a full recovery for our friend, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, it's humbling for me to be able to refer as a former vice president to a head of state as a friend, but Bibi Netanyahu is my friend. I made memories with him over the years, and I cherish his leadership and his courage in leading the people of Israel. In fact, one of my favorite memories was the day just a few years after we dedicated that new American embassy in Jerusalem. The Prime Minister came to the embassy to meet with me. It was his first visit there. But standing outside the door, we posed for the obligatory picture by the cornerstone that had been laid. And it was there that I saw firsthand that the name of our great ambassador, David Friedman, appeared. The name of President Donald Trump appeared. And there between them, at the ambassador's direction, appeared the name of your vice president. It was one of the greatest honors in my life. I mean, to think that we have the privilege of my family's name appearing on a cornerstone of a building that symbolizes the unbreakable friendship between the United States and Israel is something that I'll cherish forever. And every step of the way, we stood with Israel, with your support and with your prayers. And as we did it, the naysayers derided our approach to American-Israeli relations, didn't they? They issued dire warnings that blood would soon flow in the streets of Israeli cities. And as usual, they were wrong. We proved just how wrong they were when in the fall of 2020, standing on the south lawn of the White House, the leaders of Bahrain, the UAE, Israel, and the United States stood shoulder to shoulder and signed the most significant breakthrough for peace in decades. The Abraham Accords were achieved. I mean, we demonstrated that an unambiguous stand with Israel actually makes peace more possible, not less possible. But how times have changed. After all that historic progress, President Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. And the Biden administration has all but abandoned our unambiguous and unqualified support for Israel. I mean, think about it. Funding has been restored to the Palestinian Authority. Iranian nuclear talks have been reopened. In fact, this administration has even worked with Russia as an interlocutor between Iran and the United States. A consulate to the Palestinian people has been opened in Jerusalem, an outrageous and unlawful step that undercuts Jerusalem's status as Israel's unified capital. You know, after the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, America's standing in the world is diminished. I take no joy in saying it, but the enemies of freedom have been emboldened. It's no coincidence to me that Russia waited until the Biden administration to launch its unprovoked and heartless invasion in Ukraine, or that North Korea has resumed firing missiles, or that Iran is once again spreading terror abroad while mercilessly slaughtering protesters in their streets. All those things are happening now because history teaches weakness arouses evil. But peace comes through strength. And we need to return to American strength. I mean, it's incomprehensible to me that public reports have confirmed that the Biden administration is actually continuing to pursue negotiations for what would be an even worse nuclear deal with Iran. In fact, the Biden administration has even admitted that under a restored nuclear deal, Iran would be capable of amassing enough nuclear fuel for a bomb in less than 1 year, even faster than what was allowed under the previous deal. These actions are foolish and they're reckless. Appeasement has never worked and it never will. A renewed nuclear deal won't lead to peace and stability. It will lead to more terrorism, death, and destruction. A renewed deal won't block Iran's path to a nuclear bomb. It will pave it in gold. So today, I call upon President Joe Biden and his administration to stand with our cherished ally, stand up to state-sponsored terrorism, and cease and desist all nuclear negotiations with the mullahs in Tehran immediately. But supporting Israel requires more than just strength on the world stage. It requires strong action and clarity here at home. You know, it's truly shameful to see so many left-wing Democrats spending time spewing venom and vitriol at our most cherished ally. Just last week, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who lost her seat on the International Relations Committee, for using anti-Semitic tropes, announced that she would boycott Israeli President Isaac Herzog's upcoming address to Congress. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, recently claimed, quote, "Israel is a racist state." And not to be outdone, earlier today, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib doubled down on the anti-Semitic remarks of her peers by accusing the Israeli government of, quote, "committing the crime of apartheid, a racist system of oppression." Let me be clear on this. The words by these congresswomen are a disgrace, and they are beneath the dignity of the relationship between America and Israel, and President Biden and every Democrat member of Congress should denounce them and denounce them today. There is no place for anti-Semitism in America or in the American Congress. As a member of Congress, it was my great privilege, along with the only Holocaust survivor ever to serve in Congress, the late Tom Lantos, to serve as the first co-chair of the Anti-Semitism Caucus in the House of Representatives. And let me take this moment to commend Speaker Kevin McCarthy and House Republicans, who in the face of these disgraceful comments will tomorrow bring a resolution to the floor of the House of Representatives saying America stands with Israel. Thank you, Speaker McCarthy. Hold on. We must also make sure that we stand against anti-Semitism in all of its forms. You know, when I was governor of Indiana, I became one of the first governors in America to stand up against the racist BDS movement. Ambassador Ron Dermer actually flew to Indianapolis for our signing. He told me that Indiana had the strongest anti-BDS legislation in the country. The truth is, in 2025, I believe the next president of the United States should fight for and sign national legislation permanently banning anti-Semitic BDS laws in the United States of America. You know, you're gathered here tonight, and at the end of a long day, being gracious to your last speaker. Because you understand, Providence has entrusted the United States with a special responsibility. The guardian of our liberty. And I believe with all my heart of hearts, the guardian of Israel. We will never forsake our trust to the American people. And Israel is a friend we will never forsake. So help us God. America stands with Israel today at a critical moment in the life of our relationship. We stand with Israel for the same reason the American people have always stood with Israel. We stand with Israel because her cause is our cause. Her values are our values. We stand with Israel because we believe in right over wrong and good over evil. And we stand with Israel because Israel's very existence is proof that the promises of God are true. How probable is it that a man named Abraham, a man who ruled no empire, commanded no army, performed no miracles, delivered no prophecy, how probable is it that he should become one of the most influential people in the history of the world and the progenitor of our own Christian faith? How probable is it that his descendants, a group that comprises 1/5 of 1% of mankind, would outlive and outshine the world's greatest empires? Assyria has fallen, Rome is no more, the walls of Babylon have been reclaimed by the sands of time. Yet the Jewish people remain strong and proud and free and home. How likely is it that after 2,000 years of exile, after millennia of being scattered to the four corners of the earth, after centuries of relentless persecution and hardship, and just 4 years after walking through the valley of the shadow of death, that the Jewish people would return to that ancestral home to create a new, free, prosperous, and proud state of Israel. God is good. As Winston Churchill said, he must indeed have a blind soul that cannot see that some great purpose is being worked out here below, of which we have the honor to be faithful servants. I come here tonight not to accept an award, but to express my gratitude to you. Because I can attest through my years in the Congress, my years as a governor, my years as your vice president, that it was the men and women of CUFI, your activism and your prayers. It was your being faithful servants, strengthening the relationship between America and Israel that's made all the difference. You know, I don't know what the future holds, but I do know who holds the future. And I promise you, I promise you that wherever the Lord leads our little family in the days ahead, I'll always do my part to be a faithful servant to the American people, and I will always do my part to ensure that America stands with Israel. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Israel. And God bless America.